straight in. I try to get my guests, to do some beatboxing and some singing for us, so we can do kind of have some music going on underneath us. But we are still here, and we are still live from our Las Colinas studios. Like I said, this is DFW Alive. If you are new to listening to the station and you're not familiar with what that show is, it is all local and live hosts every Friday. At the 11 o'clock hour, we go live for an hour, and it's a different, show theme every week. So the first week, the second week we're on the second week right now, in case you were not aware, on August 9th here, is Young and Present. And my name is Sissel Anderson, and I'm the host of this show. And Young and Present, I think, just had its 4th year anniversary, so it's been going strong for 4 years. Had some host change in the past, or co-hosts. I've had 2 co-hosts who, both of them have had children and moved on in life, and I'm still here. So, so thank you all so much for joining us today. Young and Present, the idea of it was to talk about maybe issues that young adults living out their Catholic faith might face, talk about encouraging young adults in the living out the faith, talking about just all sorts of topics related to that. But I do want to point out, I know that there are not just young adults listening, of course, so we don't discriminate. If you're young at heart, you also are young and present. So anyhow, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to be talking to a great guest today. And if you listen to Catholic radio frequently, you may have already heard his voice before. Actually, just last week, he was on our morning show, Morning Joy, when Dave was hosting it for that week, which I know he had a lot of fun doing. But with Diego Campos, came on, I think, last Thursday, bright and early in the morning, to talk about a docuseries that he had just recently filmed and kind of done a pre-screening for, and talked all about that. But I thought, because Diego is here from DFW, he is a young Catholic, what better guest to have on Young and Present than Diego. So I'm going to introduce him here in just a minute, but we're going to talk about a lot of things, from living as a Catholic in college campus ministries, and also, of course, his most recent project. So let me welcome to the airways, Diego Campos, and I don't think your mic is on. It is now. There you go.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Of course. And this is your 3rd time on Catholic radio. Is that right? 3rd time? 4th time?
If we count last week, this is my 4th time,
Okay.
I think. The first time was with JVG Pictures, when it was JVG Pictures, and that was the Vining Sisters and Luke Gonzalez and a couple others, and we were promoting Seek First, which was a short film. And then the time after that was whenever it was just myself and the Vining Sisters promoting The Light of Versa, which was a feature film made by teenagers. And then 3rd time was last week, and 4th time is right now.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, that's awesome. That's a pretty great stretch. We were, I think, it's been a few years since the first time that you all came on. It was back at our old studio. I remember, because I knew the Vining Sisters, a great couple, Catholic homeschool girls who were having a lot of fun. And I knew a lot of friends who were working on those projects that you just mentioned. And then I think we recently ran into each other at a young adult event for the Diocese of Fort Worth. And then you invited me to come out and see Mission, a Catholic docuseries, the pre-screening that you had out in Stephenville, and that was really fun. And then Dave had you on, of course, to talk about that. But before we go into all of that, let's just first talk about you and your faith journey. So you have always been here in the Fort Worth Diocese area, right?
I've been here since I was 11.
Okay,
I
gotcha.
moved to the Fort Worth Diocese from the Austin Diocese when I was 11. I kind of grew up in the Austin Diocese, but in a way, I wasn't really raised in the Fort Worth Diocese after 11, because we live in the corner of the diocese. My family does. It's like 3 or 4 hours to Wichita Falls. We're at the farthest corner. It's the frontier out there. It's so frontier that until this year, we've had 4 churches out there, and they've all been mission parishes.
Right.
Even St. Stephen's in Weatherford is still a mission parish. But they've been mission parishes for the past 50, 60 years. And so that kind of gives you an idea of yes, I'm within the bounds of the diocese, but not within necessarily the culture of the diocese, because
Sure.
it's just so far away. It's kind of isolated from the rest of the diocese.
It's crazy to think that not that long ago it was all the Dallas diocese too, and that would be even further away. So yeah, definitely probably a different experience than a lot of people who are here where the diocese lines are very close to each other. But yeah, you've obviously, your parents raised you Catholic. Have you always felt like very connected to your faith, just from childhood up, or do you think there was any time that you had a little bit of a reversion?
Yeah, I would say that, like, yes, I was raised in the faith, and I was well catechized. I was homeschooled by my mom, so
Go homeschoolers.
yeah, my mom really did do a good job of catechizing me, and sometimes to the point where it was like I would get a little snarky in CCD class, but not always the best attribute.
That's a whole other thing that you have to, some people have to have reversions, and then some people we need to you knock down a few.
Yeah, but like I kind of touched on in my interview with Mr. Palmer, was like there does usually come a point in your life, especially as a young adult, when you have a lot of questions, when you're kind of in a rebellious phase where it's like, am I going to continue the faith? Am I going to pursue it? And I think I had that moment when I was like 15 or 16, like when I really had to decide, like, once I'm in college, is this something I'm going to pursue? And I chose yes, and it took a lot of late nights staying up until 3 a.m. reasoning it out in my head and parsing the information, parsing out my feelings, like, and deciding whether I was going to commit to it or not. But yeah.
That's awesome. I should have also mentioned at the beginning of the show, as a reminder to anyone who's just tuning in right now, this is Young and Present. You're hearing it live from our Las Colinas studios, and I am talking to Diego Campos, but we are also live streaming on all of our social media platforms, including TikTok, which I don't even have a TikTok, but it's very fun to kind of see that. So you can find us on YouTube, on Facebook, on X, all of those streaming sites. You can go to at GRN Online. If you're not already subscribed, please subscribe, and you can come see the behind the scenes. We're on camera and everything. So please, we're waving right now. So waving come on, because radio can't just be radio anymore. We got to be radio and video. So you can come see us, and you can also then rewatch it later on if you want to send it to anyone else. But yeah, I do think, like you mentioned, that there's always a time where you kind of have to decide, am I going to take this seriously and take ownership of my faith? And it's kind of good that you did it before college, because I think a lot of people, they go to college and have that crisis.
Yes, it's like the first burst of freedom that a lot of people face, and it's like you have to make all your decisions on your own, and that includes, am I going to wake up for church?
Yep.
We don't really have that problem, or haven't had that problem at CCM, because it's like the mass is at 5 p.m.
Amazing.
And so it's like, oh, you didn't wake up. How late were you up last night? Or rather, how late were you up this morning?
We have some other problems,
Yeah, there's other things going on if you can't wake up for mass at 5 p.m. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of at the core of it, is like everybody has that first opportunity to either stay or leave. And at the CCM that I'm a part of, it's like a lot of people choose to stay because of like their faith, but also their community, because they might have like the catechesis. They might know why they believe something or why they want to pursue the faith, but like maybe they didn't have the right type of community back home, or maybe like they're from a more rural community where like they're the only 18, 19-year-old who like might be serious about their faith, and like they finally like come to college, find the CCM, and it's like, okay, there are other people who are like my age, who actually are on fire and actually want to like pursue the Holy Spirit, have community, and just grow.
Yeah, kind of. I think a lot of people can either lose their faith in college, or they can really be brought into the faith in college because of having like a really good Catholic campus ministry. Especially, I actually know quite a few people in my own young adult group that I help run at my parish. There's a lot of them who their families kind of Catholic, not really great at practicing, didn't instill a lot of those things in them growing up, but then they went to a college. And the Catholic church, the Catholic campus ministry was familiar. It was something they were like, this is kind of, I know this is a place I can go to. And then they get drawn into that beauty of that community. We should mention, where are you going to college right now, and what exactly are you studying?
So I'm going to college at Tarleton State University, which is in Stephenville, Texas. I was raised in Stephenville, Texas. And I was going to go to UNT, but that ended up not panning out. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to live at home and go to Tarleton.
Yeah.
and I'm studying electrical engineering right now. I had initially been for the first year studying film.
Okay, gotcha.
But I decided, I kind of want to be able to do these more scientific things and engineering and things like that. And so I just changed my major. But there was a year there where I was like, I'm going to graduate with my film degree. And that was kind of what started the idea behind the documentary, which was like, I'm doing it. Like, but then I realized I'm already doing it.
I was going to say, it's film degrees are great. However, if you're already interested in it and you're already doing it on your own time, you can certainly learn lots of things from, and it helps you put the practice in. However, you kind of already were doing that, so maybe not the most necessary thing. I've never been out to Tarleton. I didn't realize it was part of the A&M college series. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. When I went out there.
It's one of the oldest A&M system colleges.
So that's cool. That's awesome. Yeah, and it's about 2 hours away from here if anyone's listening and interested. And I think Diego will talk a little bit more about it, but we'll stand behind the Catholic Campus Ministry that's out there, which is awesome. Clearly, God wanted you to be there instead of UNT. UNT also has a beautiful Catholic campus ministry, a very thriving one as well. But do you find that a lot of people who come into Tarleton, are they coming just from around the state, around the area, or are there people from other states?
There are a lot of people from Texas, mostly North and Central Texas, at least from what I've seen in the CCM and like other places on campus. We have a few people who are from out of state. They're mostly rodeo people. But
of course.
Yeah,
is that a degree? Can you get a degree?
I'm not entirely sure.
You said rodeo people, and I'm like, do you study rodeo?
They do rodeo.
The physics of riding a bull. What is happening? That's really
Bachelor's in bull riding.
Yeah, that would be really entertaining to tell people that you had that. I would not at all do well bull riding, but I mean, I've ridden a mechanical bull and I stayed on for like 10 seconds, so I think that's got to count for something. But I think it'd be really funny just to claim that you got that degree. But yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of agriculture and other things as well.
Yes, lots of agriculture, lots of business, and the engineering school is getting bigger now. We have a whole dedicated engineering building that like we didn't used to have a dedicated engineering building.
That's awesome.
So there's a lot of growth going on, and like with that growth, like obviously the CCM is going to grow, but you're also just going to get like different kinds of people from different walks of life, different everything. It's really awesome to be able to experience just like each other and being able to just learning how to love each other for who the other person is. I think that's really the beautiful thing about the CCM.
Yeah, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about how you kind of initially got involved with that Catholic Campus Ministry at Tarleton. Just a reminder that this is Young and Present, hosted by me, Sissel Anderson, and my guest today is Diego Campos, who is at Tarleton, currently studying, you said electrical engineering? Electrical engineering. And he also is a filmmaker and has made a few different things, but most recently he made Mission, a Catholic docu-series, which is all about life at the Catholic Campus Ministry, or CCM. There at Tarleton. So were you the kind of person who, like, the day one you showed up to college, you like went over to the Catholic Campus Ministry and were like, sign me up, let me be at everything? Or did it take you time adjusting to college and then start going? Because you're living at home, so you're still like, you're still part of a church community,
So it's kind of complicated, I guess. It wasn't like I was going into like a completely unfamiliar environment with completely unfamiliar people, and it was just like, oh, they just reached their goal. Yeah,
you hear bells in the background. Spanish radio phones going on right now, and they just hit their goal with the cowbells.
Congratulations, Spanish radio. Anyways, what was that? Okay.
It was complicated because you knew some people.
Yeah. So I grew up there. So like, I'm at St. Brendan's. There's like the CCD building, the Newman Hall, and all that stuff. And it's like, these are familiar environments to me. Like, I grew up in this place like since I was 11.
Sure.
And then like the campus minister, Nathan Mena, like I knew him ever since he was like a freshman college student. Like, yeah, I was 11, but like I knew him.
Sure.
And like, he had his whole journey where he like felt called to become the campus minister and was doing it kind of like on his own as a student for a little bit, like trying to like build up the ministry. And then like after that, like still trying to contribute where he could with his like day job going on too. and then eventually becoming like now like a fully hired position as Catholic campus minister at Tarleton. So he has his own story arc going on.
We'll have to have him on sometime just to talk about that, because that's pretty cool.
Yeah, he has a really interesting story. But like I already knew Nathan, and like I would see a bunch of the people from the previous school year like altar serving or like lecturing and stuff like that. But there were also a bunch of new people because like whatever that year was like a record breaking, like, oh, so many freshmen to come in. Like we have like however many thousand new freshmen. And it's like, oh my gosh. But it's really, you ended up like with 5 people who showed up at first at CCM and really stuck. And like, it grew, but like there were people who like were there from day one, and it was like they were your day one people. Shout out to Cielo Medina. But yeah, it's really really awesome, like being able to like see this environment in a completely different context now, because growing up it was kind of like this not like old people church, right, and it was like the floor was carpet, and it was like I didn't really like much about the church. But then like I actually started becoming part of the community in CCM, and then like all of a sudden like I took like a much more like sentimental and like, dare I say, more loving approach to even just like the architecture of the church. It was like, okay, like I'm way more endeared to it now, because it's like I have this community of people that like I really do love, that I associate with this place. And you'll see it in the documentary. I mean, you've seen it in the documentary. Like this isn't like the St. Mary's
it's not College Station St. Mary's.
Yeah, it's not
very
like,
ornate and very obviously very beautifully done. Not St. Mary's is a gorgeous church and stuff like that, but not all of the churches are going to be St. Mary's.
Right. It's like it's this small church with only one aisle and like a section over here for extra seating that used to be the hall, and they just knocked down the wall and now it's extra seating.
Wow.
And then over here, which is the cry room, which used to be like the priest's apartment, like in the 60s. So like very, very small church, and like a lot of things haven't been updated in years. And it's like, but it does now for me, like I have a greater appreciation of like the timelessness of it, because it's like I can walk in this church and see basically what somebody 30 or 40 years ago would have seen walking in, and being able to experience that is really kind of crazy, because it's like, it's not like it's this big thing, but it's like one of those small things that ends up being forgotten, I feel, a lot of the time, like being able to appreciate those small things that are shared experiences. Like the CCM. The CCM really is like, it's not this ends, it's a means. Obviously a means to salvation, but it's like just one of the means in the world to salvation. But being able to kind of take joy in that has been really, really transformative experience for me. Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, you have a very unique experience of going from, attending mass with your family. This is your home parish, but then it just completely changes your perspective when you are going with your like Catholic campus ministry, all your fellow college students, and you just find that like the church becomes a home, really. And with obviously the center being Jesus in the Eucharist, but also it's very different. It's a very different experience just going and attending mass at a church to wholeheartedly involving yourself in that community. Even when you go to a really big church, a really big Catholic church, there's like maybe 6 or 7 masses on a weekend. But if you're very involved in the church, it doesn't seem that large, because you see the same people. You see the people volunteering at different events, and it's really, really beautiful. I tell the young adults in my group frequently, whenever because I have a lot of young adults in my group who are the only practicing Catholics in their family, and it can be very lonely, going to mass by yourself or going with just like a few friends. The importance of involving yourself in a community and making, a church family, your extended family. We're all brothers and sisters in Christ. So that's kind of cool. So you kind of started going to the Catholic campus ministry, and in the docuseries, it's cool. You kind of show some of the events that you all do. I saw something is there like a weekly meal during the school year, or what is that? What are some of like kind of the things that they do to involve college students, and what do they do to entice college students? I say, and free food usually is one of those.
Yeah. So every 2 weeks we do I say every 2 weeks. I think it's the second and fourth week of every month. Every Sunday. Second and fourth Sunday. We do a meal, and then every Wednesday we do a meal, and we
Okay.
call those our Veritas suppers.
Cool.
Truth. And they're kind of engaged. They're kind of made to engage in fellowship and then formation. So usually we cycle between fellowship formation for the Veritas suppers, because we can find truth in each other too. But the Sunday meals are very much like, okay, like if this is your first time maybe at CCM, or maybe you're just starting to come back to church, like this is a good opportunity to like meet people, just straight up, hi, how are you doing? Here's free food in the Newman Hall. And that so far that system has worked well for us. But like, there are unconventional like ones where it's like maybe someone showed up for the first time at a Veritas supper where we're having a very intense talk, and it's like, okay, like
Hey, sometimes God will work through it, whatever it needs to.
Maybe that's what they needed,
what it
right?
needed that day,
Yeah. But those are like the flagship events. And then we have other smaller stuff throughout the semester. So like we'll have movie nights at the CCM house where we'll just watch a movie. Well, not the CCM house anymore. Last school year was the CCM house. Now we're going to have the Newman mostly to ourselves. But we watch movies, Catholic movies. Let me think what else. We do cookouts sometimes. We do rosaries every day on campus at 12:15. And this past school year has seen the most growth in that.
That's awesome.
The year before, it was just my friend Cristo and my friend Evan, and like they were the ones that showed up every single day. And even when Evan didn't show up, it was Cristo that showed up, and like you would just see him there alone in the student center praying his rosary. And I was like, I would feel bad because I was like, dang it, I either forgot about rosary or like I was like, no, I'm not going to go to rosary today, and then I forget, and then I walk by and I'm like,
and
sorry.
he's like, I'm standing alone.
Yeah, exactly. But this past school year, we really saw the growth where we had like probably 20 people praying the rosary in the student center at once, which for other campus ministries might not be huge, but like for our campus ministry to see that growth was incredible, because it's not just number growth, it's like spiritual growth, because people don't have to show up at 12:15 and go to the student center in between classes, maybe skipping lunch to pray the rosary with their fellow Catholics. It's just been really beautiful. Let me think, what other events do? We did a field blessing last school year. We really push for trying to go to Seek. I mean, that's one of the big things we do. Sure. But as far as like day-to-day stuff, like those are the main things, and we do a lot of hanging out just on campus and at our facilities, and that's where a lot of discussion takes place. There's not so much theological discussion like during the meals as much as there is like someone's like, hey, I have a question about this thing, Nathan, and Nathan's like, oh, well, I have an answer for you because I'm a human theological encyclopedia.
That's handy to have as a campus minister.
It's very, very handy. Very handy. He'll just start quoting like Bible verses. And like the catechism number 4,627.
I would just confidently say, there is an answer. Let me look for it.
Yeah.
Give me like 10 minutes. I'm going to go pull out my catechism. I'm going to go to Catholic.com and I'll get you an answer. But that's very handy.
Oh, yeah. Nathan is very handy. We like having him around.
That's good. I hope you'll keep him. Just as a reminder that this is Young and Present, live from the North Texas studios of the Guadalupe Radio Network. And my guest is Diego Campos, and he's been talking all about the Catholic campus ministry at Tarleton and all of his experiences there, which of course are very, very positive, and so positive that he made it into a docuseries that he has done some limited release. At least the first episode is on your website. And we'll talk. I will talk more thoroughly about like your film background and everything, but I kind of wanted to establish like why you were so passionate about making this particular project. HolyCoyoteStudios.com is the website, and that first episode I think is just right there on the front page, so you can see it. It's called Mission, a Catholic docuseries. HolyCoyoteStudios.com. I saw 2 coyotes the other night, by the way. There was actually one in our parking lot here too.
Really?
Here in Irving, which is kind of unusual, but yeah. So they knew you were coming, and we'll also get the story behind the Holy Coyote Studios and why you named it that. But I think it's really cool that the campus ministry has grown. And honestly, with young adult and college ministry, it takes a long time for things to kind of like get settled, and you have Nathan who's been there and growing it slowly over time, and of course you have students leaving, coming, so it's very interesting, and especially at a school like that. I don't even know what like the Catholic percentage would be of people coming there. I don't even know like how many it actually is, and then you have to actually get them to desire to come and continue to come. But it's really beautiful that you are having the turnout that you are.
Yeah, I think someone did a study, and it's like 25%.
Oh, that's actually pretty good.
30%.
That's pretty great.
And that, I think that's probably just baptized, not necessarily
practicing. That's a whole other.
There are 30 no, just kidding.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been incredible seeing it grow, because I mean, like I said, I've been there the past 9 years.
At the parish, right? Yeah.
10 years at the parish. So I've seen it grow. And it's just been really beautiful to see, like, it would grow and then maybe it would dissipate, and then it would grow again. And now we're in like probably one of the peak growths. Like, we're definitely on the climb right now. I'm not sure the CCM has been this big in quite a while. So
that's really cool. It's really good to hear things like that, because I know a lot of people are always talking about, oh, there's so many young people leaving the church. And again, I work in young adult ministry as well. And our group is also at like kind of a all-time high. And that's really cool. So it's a very encouraging, and it's good to remind everyone that, okay, yes, there may be lots of people leaving the church, but there are a lot of people coming into their church. And I also think there's a lot of people who are getting very serious and very deep into the church too. Not just like, I'm going to start coming back. But it's like, I want to know and love Jesus more, which is really beautiful. We're actually going to take a quick break here in just a moment. And by the way, thank you to Joe, who's producing today for me. I appreciate it a lot, so that we can be both live on the radio and, of course, live streamed on all the Guadalupe Radio Network social media platforms. If you want to check any of those out, please join us. But we'll be back here in just a minute with Diego Campos from Holy Coyote Studios in just a couple of minutes.
Curcio Retreat Weekend will be Thursday, October 3rd through Sunday, October 6th. The Men's Curcio Retreat Weekend is scheduled for Thursday, October 24th through Sunday, October 27th. If you'd like more information, please contact Alan Martin, our pre-Curcio coordinator, at gr8iam1@gmail.com.
Hello, my name is Bill Mertz. My wife Liz and I own MasterTech Auto Repair in Plano. We're proud sponsors of Catholic Radio. Our family has been parishioners of St. Gabriel's in McKinney for many years. MasterTech is a full-service auto repair, from oil changes to complete engine replacement or transmission service. We're located just across the street from St. Mark's Parish in Plano. You can contact us at 972-578-1841 or www.mastertechplano.com. Thank you, and may you have a blessed day.
This October, Fullness of Truth invites you to their Fall Catholic Family Conference called the Catholic Culture Revival, Restoring the Good, True, and Beautiful to a Searching World at the amazing Kalahari Resort and Convention Center in Round Rock, Texas, October 4th through the 6th. Speakers include Dr. Peter Kraft, Father Leo Paddlinghug, Dr. David Anders, and Father David Michael Moses, and the music of Dave and Lauren Moore. Visit fullnessoftruth.org for information and tickets.
And welcome back to DFW Alive. This particular second Friday of the month is Young and Present with me, your host, Sissel Anderson, also serve as the North Texas assistant of the Guadalupe Radio Network, and sometimes they let me do cool things like this. And today my guest is Diego Campos. If you were listening to the first half of the interview, we were talking a lot about his faith upbringing and his transition into college. He's going to Tarleton. He is a junior. He's going to be a junior, I guess, in just very shortly, in the next couple of weeks, starting his third year there, and is very active at the Catholic Campus Ministry, or the CCM. And he also enjoys making films and documentaries, and he enjoys both his Catholic faith and his Catholic Campus Ministry and filmmaking so much that he made Mission, a Catholic docuseries all about a year in the life at the CCM at Tarleton. And so we're going to talk a lot about that here now in just the next couple of minutes. But this is not the first project you've done. You mentioned some of the other ones we've talked about here on the radio station before with some other friends growing up. But you have your own production company, Holy Coyote Studios. First and foremost, the story about why Holy Coyote Studios I think is pretty great. Can you tell that one real quick?
Yeah. So basically, there's on my grandmother's side, who just passed away. So please pray for the repose of her soul. On my grandmother's side, it was like her cousin's uncle. It was something like that. I don't remember exactly where.
Somehow
this
related.
Is. Somehow related. I think it was that her mom knew him, and he was like her nephew, like on another side of the family or something. I don't remember exactly how it was. Either way, somewhere within my lineage, there is a relative named Saint Toribio Romo, and basically he was martyred during the Cristiada in Mexico during the 1920s, whenever the Catholic faith was being persecuted in Mexico, and he would like celebrate mass for like underground for just the congregation, and he would dress in plain clothes, and eventually he was like found and killed. And there are many priest saints like that who were martyred for practicing the sacraments whenever it was specifically banned. I'm just blessed enough to have one kind of within my genetic reach. But later on in life, whenever, well, not life, but like later on in his canonized life, people began to say that they would have apparitions of him at the border whenever people were immigrating up, and that he would give aid or support, like water, like food to people. I actually had a friend who went to Tarleton. She graduated. And that was like, yeah, actually, my mom says she saw him like whenever she was coming over, and that like it was like an apparition. There are many stories where it was like this guy like was crossing the border, and this guy and someone helped him, and he was like, "How can I repay you?" And he was like, "Go to this town and go like my name is this name. Go to this town, and like ask for me." And he did, and he went to the town. Asked for him. They're like, "Oh, that was Toribio Romo. His shrine is up there." And they're like,
Huh?
What? And so there's many stories like that, and that got him the kind of moniker, the Holy Coyote. And so I was like, well, it beats Campos Studios. Definitely
it may not have been
story.
the only Campos Studios out there, so I think this one's a little bit more.
It's more unique.
You're unique, and then also you're kind of establishing yourself in your faith as well with it, which is pretty cool. If you want to look at his website, you can go to holycoyotestudios.com, and you can also see the first episode of Mission, a Catholic docuseries. But when did you first get into film production? I know you do a lot of music as well, but did you always have this idea that you liked doing film, or did you just kind of stumble into it because of friends, or how did it happen?
It all started whenever my dad brought home a Vario JVC camcorder. It's HDD. I was like, was it high definition? What? Hard disk drive. And so I was recording with that, and I would drop it, and the autofocus would give out, but I would keep using it. And that's where I really started. I would film my little sister all the time, and she always like gives me a little flack for it, because it's like, well, I would never put the camera down, and we would just be playing outside, and she'd be like, Diego, stop recording, and I would just be there filming like silently.
She's just like, I'm just trying to play, and you're like, I'm making art.
Exactly. I was like, I'm just documenting. Like, come on.
She'll appreciate it one day. Her kids will appreciate it if she has kids, in the future.
We appreciate it now.
Perfect.
Because those videos are so funny.
Oh,
it's
I
like
bet.
home videos where you're like, oh, that's cute, but it was filmed by the parent. But like, this is from like my perspective, and so there's like funny commentary. My little sister was so funny whenever she was little. She was the funniest and cutest little. It was so funny. But stuff like that, I was like, oh yeah, I love filming. And then I would go into like Windows Movie Maker and edit it, and I would make a little movie. And then it just got bigger. My dad was like, here, I'm gonna get you Sony Vegas and
move up in the world a little bit.
Move up. And I was like, it was like going from, I don't know, Legos to actual materials to build with. Like it went from Legos to a construction site, because I did not know what to do. And so I would use that software, and like it would kind of look bad because I didn't know what to do. But eventually I learned it, and then I moved on to other software, and eventually better camera. It was like steps up. because I was like, oh, I'm going to do photography. And I was trying to do photography for a little bit, but I really found my heart was in videography. And then, of course, along the way, I was like, I'm not going to want to license my music from anybody because, one, expensive, but two, I don't want to put credits on my stuff. So I would just make my own music in GarageBand. And that eventually grew to the point where I was able to score Cyber Attack for the Vining Sisters, then Seek First, then The Light of Versa. And all of a sudden, I knew how to compose orchestral soundtrack music and orchestrate and all of that. And all I needed now to work on was honing my videography skills. And so that was around whenever COVID was happening, so like I didn't have much to do. So I had my camera, and I had upgraded my camera because my dad had a project, and he wanted me to like make some videos for him. And so I did. And so now I had a better camera, and now I could practice like with a good camera. And practiced my run and gun cinematography, all that stuff. And then this past school year started, and I was like, okay, I got this. Like, I can do it. I felt like I could do it. There wasn't a guarantee that I could do it, but I knew that, like, through the grace of God, like,
the efforts
it
weren't going to be wasted, and no matter what the outcome of that was going to be. So yeah, you decided last year, around this time probably, to start filming the Catholic Campus Ministry for the year.
I decided to make it a full project because previously I had just wanted to make like a couple YouTube videos.
Sure.
And actually the first like probably 15 minutes of the first episode were initially just supposed to be like 3 YouTube videos.
Got it.
But then it grew, and all of a sudden I was like, you know what? I'm going to make this into like a full episode. And I had a digital video production class that I had going on. And I submitted that for my grade for the class.
How'd that do?
A.
A, perfect.
There
we go.
So I guess, I don't know if that speaks to technical quality. Please go watch the docuseries, www.holycoyotestudios.com. Like, comment, subscribe.
There you go. We better see at least like 100 people doing that right now.
Yeah. I'm watching my analytics on my webpage
right now. There better be a whole bunch of people jumping on. Because there's at least 1 million people listening to us right now, of course. Because Young and Present is one of our most listened to shows, of course.
Of course.
Our once a month program that comes on and just kind of pops on and then disappears again.
People are just like waiting for it.
They're
month,
like, oh, it's not Young and Present yet. Oh
wait.
man, I gotta go in. But that's really cool. So you started obviously with a different intention in mind. And for a lot of people maybe who don't know, usually with documentaries, you kind of just start filming maybe a subject or something. You have some ideas of maybe what it might become, but the story is really made obviously when you're editing it. Which with a documentary is a lot of footage, especially when you're filming for a year, which I think Diego's just having PTSD now about going through and logging that. But as you started doing it, because again, let me remind everyone the premise of Mission is that you were filming just your friends basically at the Catholic Campus Ministry and their journey of faith and friendship from the first semester, the fall semester until the end of the spring semester. It includes things like going to Seek. Includes like kind of your weekly meetings, and then there's certain people that you'll follow a couple different times and kind of see how maybe they started very hesitant, towards their Catholic faith, and then fully embracing it by the end of the year, which is really cool. As you're doing it, was it formulating in your mind how you're going to organize it into its 7 episodes? 7 episodes so far. Okay. Oh, that's right. There might be another one.
Yeah, there might be an 8th episode depending on whether I can actually begin filming this coming semester. Because technically the 8th episode right now is like 15 minutes long, and it covers just kind of everybody parting ways.
Got it.
But I wanted to make it a full cycle. I want to make it full cycle where it's like, okay, there's hope, Of course there's hope, but it's like full circle, first episode, last episode, like
everything's starting, everything's ending, but it's going to restart again.
Exactly. But sorry, what was the question?
I don't even remember. I was saying, did you have an idea of what it was going to, were you thinking, as you're filming it, that's going to be like a storyline I want to follow throughout the rest of, this year? Yeah,
I think obviously the arching, I don't remember how you pronounce it, storyline is the faith and growth of the CCM as like a family. But there are individuals that you will meet in the episodes that you truly see growing and changing. And there will be faces that just are introduced along the way that it's like they weren't there from like the day one, but like that kind of is the mission, is being able to evangelize, not proselytize, and be able to like change people by just being as Christ-like as possible. So there were definitely moments where I was like, okay, like I'm filming this and I know exactly how I'm going to edit this. Like in my head, I could see, okay, these are like the cuts I'm going to make. This is all adding up, and this is going to be a good reference to the thing that was in episode 2 or episode 1 or whatever. Basically, as I was filming, I was thinking, how can this thing that I'm filming build on what's come before? And so in that sense, it's very much like a house of cards, because I had to do my absolute best to trust in God that things were going to work out correctly. Because if you just go into something like this, especially a faith project, it's like you yourself have to have faith, because otherwise you're just going to end up putting your own human ideas, your own human concepts, and basically it's going to become a prideful project as opposed to something that's supposed to glorify God. And so I had certain ideas at the beginning of filming where I was like, okay, I'm going to do this, and this, like, I don't care if anybody tells me not to do it this way, because that's the way I want to do it. But like, for whatever reason, certain things ended up not working out. And then after the fact, I would have that clarity of like, that actually would have been the worst thing I could have done. Like that would have been so detrimental to the project. So there are things like that. It takes a lot of trust that the narrative, being God's grace, will pan out. Because truly, I knew people were going to change. And like, I could say that with certainty because just of knowing the people in CCM and knowing God's grace, just knowing it was kind of like the perfect storm, but a good storm.
Right.
As Nathan says at the end of the first episode, spiritual dynamite, right? And it really was, because there really was a whole story there just waiting to be told. And I don't think it could have been done at a different time in this CCM's life, because it's just in that transitional period where it's going from being very grassroots to now we have a diocesan priest. So there's that growth, but maybe there's not as much like restriction as there could have been. And being able to be like, okay, I'm going to do as much as I can to like visualize Christ in moving in these people.
That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely, especially a project like this, something you have to give to God to allow to get it to. Because if we try to control and plan it, it's not going to go quite the way we intended. When you first like presented, I don't know how you did this, but like saying, I'm going to start filming you guys like at every,
Yeah,
I'm
it was
going to be
an awkward
around.
conversation.
I'm sure it was,
Yeah.
but like when you did it, of course, you talked to the campus minister, Nathan, quite a lot, and interviewed him several times, but you're also just at various events, and I guess, how do those conversations go, and how did you present it to everyone? Because it's still an idea formulating, so you're just kind of like, hey guys, so like, when we're hanging out, I'm just gonna have a camera.
Yeah. There were a couple of things. Like I had initially presented it to leadership because I was a co-president for that school year of the CCM, and I had presented it to leadership, and everybody was like, that's a great idea, awesome. But like the idea in their head was kind of like I mentioned at the screening, was that's going to be like The Office or something like that. That's like, it's just going to be like this comedy or something like that. And
College students are pretty funny.
Yeah.
they can have their moments, especially in like when they're in close quarters constantly and just
oh yeah. There's so many
the
funny
running
moments.
jokes. Yeah, it gets
My cheeks sometimes hurt from smiling. Like I'll leave this CCM and I'll just be like, my cheeks will just be like sore. But I mean, yeah, like people thought it was going to be something like a mockumentary, which even those things are way more controlled. It's like you can't control that, and I only had prime lenses. I didn't have zoom lenses.
Yeah, so you
couldn't,
really only have so much you can do.
I had to take a way more artistic approach, and I was kind of forced to do that, but it's a good thing.
No, that's always work within some
creativity.
limits. Sometimes it helps your creativity a lot.
Exactly.
For prime, if anyone doesn't know what a prime lens, it doesn't mean he wasn't able to zoom.
Yes.
So he had whatever his camera was seeing, that's what it was going to see. He would have to physically move a lot more, and so you have to take. It means that you have to move around a lot, and also just figure out how you're going to frame everything, and it makes life a lot more exciting.
Yes, exciting and sometimes heart-wrenching whenever you didn't get the shot quite exactly
how you wanted it.
to.
Yeah, but prime lenses are very clear and beautiful. So
it is true. I use a set of like vintage lenses
nice.
that are they're like $30 on eBay, and it's like, no way I'm paying $300.
Yeah, lenses can be very expensive for sure. But obviously, a good number of people were very willing to have, kind of some of their vulnerable moments be recorded, especially the transformations that happened. I don't know. Yeah, I guess particularly for some individual people, how did you talk to them about that?
So, let me think.
While you're thinking, let me remind everyone that they're listening to Young and Present, and we are talking to Diego Campos, who is, I guess, what you call like the owner / head executive producer of Holy Coyote Studios. You can give yourself whatever title you want, I guess, if it's your own. Creative director. There you go. Holy Coyote Studios. You can go to holycoyotestudios.com, and you can see the first episode of his docuseries called Mission, a Catholic docuseries where it follows the life of college students at the campus ministry at Tarleton, and kind of just from the beginning of the fall semester to the end of the spring semester, you can just kind of see how their relationships grow, their relationships with God grow over the full year, and all the activities that they do. So yeah, no, did I buy you enough time?
Yeah.
Perfect.
It was an interesting dynamic because it wasn't like I was some guy coming in. Like I wasn't part of a production studio. I wasn't like, hello, I'm this Angel Studios
and I'm
executive.
Follow you around with the camera.
Exactly. Like these people are my friends,
right?
And I cared very deeply about them. Like every single one of them, everybody you see interviewed, I cared deeply about. And so the idea was like that their vulnerability with me would be vulnerability with the audience, and that vicariously one could live through being a member of CCM, kind of like not necessarily through my eyes, but through the lens of my camera, in a way that like maybe hasn't been experienced before or put to film. That was really what I wanted to accomplish. So people being vulnerable with me wasn't so much like okay, I know it's going to be like a difficult time conversation, as much as it was like okay, like you got this, like I love you so much, and like I want to see you through this. And oftentimes it was just like a list of questions where it was just like, so who are you, like, and how would you like to affect others? How has the CCM affected you? Like what challenges do you see for yourself going into this school year? And then as the school year came to a close, it was like, what challenges have you overcome in this school year? How have you changed? And so it wasn't so much like a conversation on vulnerability as much as it was like just a meditation on it. That's how I framed a lot of my interviews, was particularly in the first 3 episodes, a lot of the interviews are actually taken in the cry room of the church. And in the cry room, there's this gigantic glass like wall, basically, and it's a window, and it's like basically right on the sanctuary. And so directly from the pews of the cry room, you can see the tabernacle. And so what I did was I had my back facing whoever I was interviewing, and I would set up the camera and just let it record locked. And then I would basically just say, okay, I'm going to ask you these questions and answer as though you're talking to Christ in the Blessed Sacrament, because I feel like that was the best way for Christ to guide those conversations. And I got a lot of vulnerability and a lot of just good content from those interviews, they're very rich. Sometimes it was very difficult having to cut things out because there would be a quote and you would be like that's a really beautiful quote, but maybe it doesn't fit the context of the episode.
It's the painful part of editing, is that there can be something really, really good and you really, really love, but it doesn't quite fit for the overall arching theme. Yeah.
And that was probably the biggest struggle I had, because as you know, every episode follows a specific theme. It's to know, to love, to serve, truth, mercy, and joy. And I had to fit kind of the structure, because I felt like that was the kind of story of redemption, like those things in that order. But I'd like to ask you, what are your thoughts on the documentary?
You can't turn it around on the interview.
Hey.
No, I was like, I should probably say something, because I haven't really said. No, I really enjoyed it. I think, I don't know if it would be just for me or if it's like a universal thing. I think a lot of people would relate to having a Catholic community. And so when I was watching you all and growing together and just like the laughter of the all together, I was like, oh, this is like if I filmed my young adult group for like a year, this is kind of what it would feel like, but obviously unique and different. But like it was really fun. And I personally felt like it was very organic and very beautiful. And so I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very fun. The way you filmed it was really nice too, because, you know, going between having just some kind of goofy videos and fun times into like more serious conversations, the way you flowed it was very nice. So I really enjoyed it. It was also, there's some really cool, very beautiful shots in the film as well. A couple transitions that I really enjoyed, if people are more like film nerds and want, you know, for that purpose. But I thought it was also just overall very encouraging to just show the everyday individual transformations that are happening all around us, but sometimes with all the things that are going on in the world, we don't take the time to appreciate that. And so I think the concept of doing it was really a good one. I literally the next day I went, after I saw it, I was meeting with my young adult coordinator team. And they were asking, because they knew I'd been out driving out to Seamville, and they were like, oh, so what exactly were you doing? And I was explaining, I was like, guys, it's like as if we filmed our young adults for a whole year. And they were all like, that would be hilarious. They're like, that's so fun. And so they immediately were all like looking up on their phones, like, we want to watch this too. So I really enjoyed it. And I think, I don't know, I think a lot of people, it's different than a lot of documentaries I think people will see, because you are such a good friend of all those people. You didn't have an agenda. You're just sitting there going like, please, like, talk, like you said, talk to like you're talking to Jesus. And you're not trying to make it overly dramatic when it doesn't need to be overly dramatic. Right. You're not trying to twist what they're saying. Right. You are just allowing them to speak, and you're editing in a way that, like, you know, kind of flows through those different themes you talked about. So I really enjoyed it. And I think a lot of people who are listening right now are probably like, well, when do I get to see the series? Yeah. And a reminder that you can see the first episode, holycoyotestudios.com. It's called Mission, a Catholic docu-series. So please visit it and please watch that first episode, and then you can, you know, reach out with your own feedback for Diego. But what exactly is, we only have a few minutes actually left, which is surprising because it goes by so fast every time. But what is your hope for this series, like, to do with it as far as like getting it out to the world? And then maybe we can talk about what you want to do in the future as well.
So I think initially I'd like to get it broadcast somewhere, maybe WTN. Call me.
Yeah. Hello, anyone listening?
Then maybe something like Formed. I think that's a good service to like kind of spread it, spread it among like parish communities and things like that. But I don't want to keep it restricted to that. I would like to eventually like just have it be released to YouTube so that way everybody can enjoy it. Right now, I'm still making small changes. Sure. So I have like the most recent version up on like a page for people who were like directly involved or were interviewed. And I'm like, okay, like y'all can create an account. I'll approve y'all, and you can go in and watch it on your own time. So that way I'm not like just gatekeeping.
Right. They're like, when's am I going to see that thing that I was a part of for a year?
Yeah. And so like I don't want to be gatekeeping for like forever. But also having the amount of like caution and temperance to be able to say like, okay, like I'm going to release it like at this rate, or I'm like, as in like, I'm going to release it like once a week, not like I'm going to release it for $100. like I'm gonna release it at this time. Like I want to be strategic about it.
Sure.
And I don't want it to just be like, okay, here's everything,
Mm-hmm.
and then
It's a little anticlimactic. You
Yeah.
you spent a lot of time, we didn't even get into like how long all that going through all that footage and editing
Yeah.
it is. That takes a lot.
Yeah.
So a lot of your life has been dedicated to it. So you want to release it in a way that, many people can see it too.
Yes, I want to reach as wide of an audience as possible. So, I mean, that's my plan, is reach as wide an audience as possible. But as far as like strategy goes, I think I want to be able to release it getting bigger. So it's like broadcasted, then streamed, then released to the public.
Got it.
Maybe some sort of like Blu-ray or DVD release at some point too. But this is a very like, it's not a timed thing. I feel like the experiences and the themes explored are timeless because they're spiritual, and if they are inspired by God, then it won't be something that just dies.
Right.
So I'm not like thinking, oh, I only have like 2 months to release it or anything like that.
Right.
I do want to be prudent about it. I also don't want to be like slothful and just let
Sure.
it sit there.
Definitely. Again, people can go to holycoyotestudios.com. I'm assuming that's where you'll update, like if you have an announcement about, hey, it is going to go on this platform or whatever it may be, the rest of the series. But you can see the first episode now. We have just about 2 minutes left. So just really quickly, have you gotten any feedback from other people who have seen it? Maybe any people involved who have watched it? Any notable feedback besides my obviously just now feedback?
From the people that watched it, all I get is like that you did that transition so good and all that stuff. It's like it's hard to get a critical feedback from people who are involved.
Yeah.
But I did get feedback from one person who I know. And he was saying, he was like, because he had listened to my interview last week, and he was like, well, you said like the audience is like people who are maybe in despair or people without hope. And he was like, but like he was like, you said young people, but like I feel like anybody really without hope could watch this and have hope. Because him as like an older man was like, I have more hope now because of it. And that touched me because I realized that kind of, while that was my core target audience, there are a lot of other people who this might affect in different ways.
Oh yeah, you have no idea, like who something's gonna like what it's gonna be said that's like can draw people in. So that's really cool. We'll have to talk another time if you have any other future plans, but like I'm sure something in the future, even though you're studying electrical engineering, you can always do film stuff on the side as it goes along, which is pretty awesome. We've been talking to Diego Campos here on Young and Present. Again, visit holycoyotestudios.com to see the first episode of his docuseries, Mission, a Catholic docuseries, which is all about this Catholic campus ministry at Tarleton. And I think that's about all the time that we have. Joe's going to be taking us off. But if you kind of want to, you caught only part of this interview, you want to see the whole thing, was live streamed on all of our social media platforms, YouTube, Facebook, so you can find the video there and rewatch it. And we'd enjoy that. And I'll also make sure we link Diego's website. But thank you so much for coming in and driving all the way to come speak with us. And we look forward to you seeing many more things from you in the future. Again, holycoyotestudios.com. This has been Young and Present. We'll be back again next month for Young and Present on DFW Live. God bless.